The haters call it a copycat. Kawasaki calls it a Grom-killer. But what do we really know about this motorcycle? Well, its real name is the Z125 Pro, and it's an annoying little shit. Like that kid in class who asks what grade you got on the midterm, just so he can do one better. See, the Honda Grom weighs 225 pounds, while the Kawi is lighter at 224.8. The Honda holds 5.5 liters of gasoline, so this tank takes 7.4, and while Honda got 134 miles to the gallon, Kawasaki made absolutely sure that they got 135.5. The Grom has a digital tach, so Kawasaki gave us a nice analog. The Grom has rubber pegs, so the Z125 has sporty metal. And while both motorcycles are priced just north of $3 grand, surprise, surprise, the Kawasaki is a few bucks cheaper. Put simply, this little punk has one-upped the Grom. Or has it? Kawasaki says they built the Z125 Pro to conquer the city. So we're gonna put that claim to the test. And here in Montreal, there's only one master of the metropolis: chicken delivery. Quebecers love their poultry, and anytime, any place, the delivery cars will get it to them. So I've got some chicken to deliver, and we're gonna see if the Z125 has what it takes. My first delivery is downtown, and this tiny bike is perfect for hitting a narrow gap. It gets out off the line too. Kawasaki gave the Z125 a 12.6% shorter stroke than the Grom, so it revs up quicker and accelerates faster. I feel like it has more power up high as well, near the 9,500 RPM limiter. The Z also dodges potholes and pedestrians better than any bike I've ridden, because its tires are skinnier than the Grom's and the wheelbase is 25 millimeters shorter. I guess this little punk beats the Grom in terms of handling then. One delivery down, 2 to go. My next order is on the outskirts of town, and that reveals a problem. See, the Z125 can go up to 426 kilometers on one tank of low-octane gasoline. But it won't get there fast. This engine produces a prepubescent 9.5 horsepower, and I'm not actually sure if it's legal on Quebec highways. I know I need at least 125 cc's to run on the auto route, and I can't really remember whether this is 124.9 or 125.1 or whatever. I go for it anyway, and the bike does do the 100 km/h limit. Barely. But like taking a rickshaw ride from a starving child, I'm too busy feeling sorry for the poor little engine to appreciate the ride. Speaking of which, Kawasaki is adamant that this single-cylinder power plant is not borrowed from their dirt bike line. I'm sure it's true, but from where I'm sitting, it feels exactly like a DRZ 125 that I had when I was a kid. On my way to the next delivery, I get distracted. And the low weight and low power Z125 is confidence inspiring, and that makes it really easy to ride like a jackass. The engine note even has a smidge of that Kawasaki sizzle, and as we all know, idiotic riding and loud noises are sure to attract the ladies. Lucky for me, the Z125 has passenger foot pegs and adjustable suspension. I get 4 preload settings on this back shock, which is 4 more than I get on the Honda Grom. That'll give me a 353-pound load capacity, so in theory, I should have no problem carrying that woman. Trouble is, the Z125 is super underpowered for 2 riders. And there's only one way to solve that problem. Now, it's been a long day in the saddle, but surprisingly, I'm not in any pain. The Z125 seat is the same height as a Ninja 650 at 31.7 inches, so it's comfy even for a tall guy like me. Of course, the issue with having a tall seat on a small motorcycle is that it brings my knees into contact with the handlebars. Another long-term annoyance is the clutch. See, the Z125 Pro has been sold as just the Z125 in Southeast Asia for the last year, and the non-Pro version is an automatic rather than this 4-speed manual. The negative side effect, though, of taking an automatic bike and transplanting a standard gearbox is that the clutch gives me nothing miles down the travel, and then I stall in an instant. It's actually a bit difficult to use. Industry folk will tell you that the Z125's gear indicator is very handy for beginners and that it makes up for the hair trigger clutch. But I think shifting gears is harder than counting to 4, so I'm not buying that excuse. Plus, the shifter itself feels loose and sloppy, and it hits way too many neutrals between first and second. Another problem for newbies might be the lack of ABS, so you'll have to learn to brake by touch without locking the rear wheels. Or not. But the Kawasaki still offers more features than the Grom, and we already know it'll out-turn and outrun the Grom too. But what about style? Well, Kawasaki says that the Z125 takes its dark side attitude straight from the larger Z series bikes. Indeed, we can see that the signals, the mirrors, and the taillight are all hereditary. And penis jokes aside, the pointy underbelly fender definitely comes from Papa. But to me, the final package is a bit awkward. I mean, let's be honest, a face this ugly only works because it packs an 800 or 1000cc punch. So to take the Z's aggressive styling and transplant it to a cute little bike, it's kind of weird. And that's the biggest problem, because in this market, image is everything. And Kawasaki's engineers set out to beat Honda spec for spec, and they did do it. But the Grom will always be the original, stylish Mini. It's like the difference between these phones. I mean, everyone knows that the Android has more memory, more functions, more RAM, and it's cheaper. That's why computer geeks choose it. But for everyone else, I mean, there's only one iPhone. In the same way, moto geeks like myself will prefer the Z125 because it is the better motorcycle. But for the masses, I don't think it's really gonna matter. I mean, there was only one Grom 2 years ago, and there's only one Grom today. Sleep easy, Honda.